Security Chief Kra'xith stared at the monitor feeds, his 3 hands frozen over the emergency protocols panel. That's impossible. Sir, should I activate the containment field? His deputy asked, voice cracking with barely controlled panic. Kra'xith leaned closer to the screen, his compound eyes widening. They're comparing prices on fruit. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. 3 juvenile Vexian predators, apex hunters whose kind had terrorized 12 star systems before the Accord, stood in the produce section of Market District 7. Each held a small shopping basket. The tallest was examining 2 different melons with the intensity their species typically reserved for stalking prey. The human female standing with them smiled encouragingly. That's right, Kra'xith. Check if they're ripe. Gentle squeeze, remember? Code black, Kra'xith whispered, then louder. Code black. Deploy armed response teams to Market 7. Evacuate all civilians. This is not a drill. Alarms shrieked through the station. On the monitor, merchants began fleeing their stalls, abandoning merchandise and credits alike. The Vexian cubs didn't even glance at the running aliens. The smallest one couldn't be more than 3 solar cycles old, still had juvenile stripes, was holding up a vegetable to the human. Miss Emma, is this one good? The cub asked in perfectly articulated common tongue. The human, Emma Martinez, according to her station ID, crouched down to the cub's level. What do we check first, Tisha? Color and firmness, the cub chirped. A Vexian predator chirped like a pleased songbird. Kra'xith activated station-wide comms. All security personnel, we have 3 juvenile Vexians loose in Market 7 with a human civilian. I repeat, 3 Vexian cubs. Sir, his deputy interrupted, pointing at another screen. Look. The middle-sized cub was standing patiently in front of a candy stall, basket at its feet. The Drellian merchant cowered behind his counter, all 6 eyes fixed on the cub's retractable claws and rows of razor teeth. Excuse me, sir? The cub said politely. How much for the crystallized honey drops? Ven, what did we talk about? Emma called from the produce section, not even looking concerned that she was surrounded by nature's perfect killing machines. Check the price tag first before asking, Vien recited dutifully. The cub tilted its head, a gesture that, in adults of the species, preceded a killing strike, and pointed at the display. Oh, I see it now. 3 credits per container. A pause. Miss Emma, do we have enough in our budget? Let's do the math together when you come back, Emma replied cheerfully, dropping various items into her own basket. Kra'xith's response teams burst into the market district, weapons charged and ready. Citizens screamed and scrambled for exits. Through the chaos, the 3 Vexian cubs calmly continued shopping. Kra'xith looked up from the melons. Miss Emma, why is everyone running? Emma glanced around, seeming to notice the panic for the first time. Oh, I think there might be a drill or something. She waved at the approaching security forces with a friendly smile. Hi there. We're just picking up groceries for the week. Should we come back later? That human, Kra'xith breathed, watching as she turned back to teaching apex predators about nutritional value. Has 3 Vexian cubs shopping. They're shopping. One just asked about budgeting. His deputy's translator chip stuttered twice before producing words. Sir, what do we do? On screen, Tisha carefully placed a selected vegetable in the basket, and Vien returned from the candy stall to report findings about pricing. The cubs weren't hunting, weren't stalking, weren't showing any of the violent, uncontrollable behavior that made Vexian young the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. They were debating whether they needed 1 or 2 packages of grain pasta. "Get me the council," Korvax said slowly. "And someone find out what in the 7 hells a human daycare worker is." Council member Zilax arrived 17 minutes later, his ceremonial robe still askew from the emergency transport. Korvax pulled up the last 10 minutes of footage without a word. They watched in silence as the 3 Vexian cubs waited in the checkout line. Actually waited. Tisha noticed an elderly Quellan struggling with an overloaded hover cart and immediately moved to help, carefully steadying the bags with claws retracted. "Thank you, little one," the Quellan wheezed, too shocked to flee. "You're welcome," Tasha chirped, returning to Emma's side. Zilax's throat sacs inflated and deflated rapidly, his species equivalent of hyperventilating. The behavior patterns are impossible," Korvax finished. "I know." On screen, our kit reached for a candy bar display, then stopped mid-grab. "Miss Emma, may I look at this?" "Of course. Remember, we look with our eyes first," Emma replied, sorting items on the conveyor belt. "Please and thank you," Zilax muttered. "Vexian young they can't. There's no documented case in 12,000 years of recorded history." "Sir," a junior officer burst into the security hub. "Dr. Lirana from the Xenobiology Institute is here. She's demanding access." The Vexian biology expert swept in moments later, her scanner already active. She was from one of the peaceful Vexian subspecies, herbivorous branch that split off millennia ago. But even she kept her distance from cubs of the hunter lineage, until she saw the readouts. "By the ancestors," Lirana breathed, running the scan 3 more times. "These are genuine Vexian predator cubs, genetic markers confirmed, apex hunter classification, but the behavioral readings." She looked up at the monitors, where Ven was carefully counting out credits from a small pouch. This shouldn't be physiologically possible. Their neural structures aren't developed for impulse control. They lack the cognitive framework for delayed gratification. They're biologically driven to... "Ven, that's 8 credits," Emma said encouragingly. "We need 10 for the ice cream. How many more?" Ven's tail, tipped with a venomous barb that could drop a full-grown Thorian, swished thoughtfully. 2 more credits. Excellent math." Emma held up her hand, and the cub gently high-fived her with retracted claws. Liriana's scanner clattered to the floor. "Okay, explain this to me," Zilax demanded, gesturing at the screens where security teams still had weapons trained on the shopping party. "What is that human doing?" Korvax pulled up Emma's station records. "Emma Martinez, part-time daycare worker, level 3. Been on station 4 months. According to this, she's been taking the cubs on field trips for 3 weeks." He scrolled further. "She has a system, chore charts, reward stickers, timeouts." Timeouts. Lirana picked up her scanner with shaking hands. "You can't give a predator cub a timeout. They'll tear through walls, attack anything in range." "Sir," the deputy's voice cracked again, "the cubs are approaching our checkpoint." Every weapon in the market district hummed to active status. The 3 Vexian cubs walked calmly through the security perimeter, Emma strolling beside them with bags of groceries. Rickett noticed the armed guards and tugged on Emma's sleeve. "Miss Emma, look, I got all 5 good behavior stars this week." The cub held up a small chart decorated with glittering stickers. Tisha and Ven immediately crowded around, proudly displaying their own charts to the nearest security officer, who stood frozen in existential terror. "That's wonderful, guys," Emma beamed. I'm so proud of you all. Who wants to help me carry these to the transport? Me! All three cubs shouted in unison, each carefully taking a bag. Zilax turned to Korvax, his voice barely a whisper. Get me every xenopsychologist on this station, and someone find out what a chore chart is. The Galactic Predator Management Bureau's emergency response team materialized in the security hub within the hour. Director Xylar, a battle-scarred Kra'xith who'd survived 3 Vexian containment breaches, took one look at the monitor feeds and reached for his weapon. Stand down. Korvax blocked his draw. Just watch. On screen, Emma was sitting cross-legged on the floor of Market 7 with the 3 cubs, reviewing their shopping list. Ven checked off items with a stylus, tongue poking out in concentration. Director Xylar, Dr. Lirana began, her voice professionally steady despite her trembling hands. I need to present critical findings. These are genetically confirmed Vexian predator cubs, hunter lineage. My scans show Diansang neural development, underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, hyperactive predatory instinct centers, elevated aggression hormones. Yet their behavior contradicts every established parameter. Xylar's 3 eyes narrowed. Explain. Vexian cubs cannot be domesticated. Period. Lirana pulled up holographic data. 700 years of research across 43 facilities. They cannot learn delayed gratification. Their neural pathways literally don't support it. They cannot suppress hunting instinct. They cannot engage in cooperative play. They certainly cannot. Tasha suddenly perked up, noticing a puddle of spilled juice in aisle 7. Miss Emma, there's a mess. Emma glanced over. Good eye, Tisha. What should we do? Alert the staff so nobody slips. Tisha scampered to the nearest merchant. Excuse me, sir. There's a spill in aisle 7. Do you need help cleaning it? The merchant stared, mandibles frozen mid-click. Kra'xith was already there with napkins from their shopping bag. We can help. Miss Emma says helping others is important. They're helping? Zilar's weapon hand fell slack. Korvax pulled up archived footage. I've reviewed 3 weeks of security recordings. The human has taken them shopping 7 times. 0 incidents, 0 aggressive behavior, 0 casualties. He fast-forwarded through clips. Cubs waiting at crosswalks, cubs holding doors open for other shoppers, cubs organizing items on shelves they'd accidentally disturbed. That's impossible, Xylar stated flatly. I've personally overseen containment protocols for juvenile Vexians. They're walking apocalypses. 3 cubs destroyed a reinforced facility on Thalos Prime. Killed 16 handlers. That's what they do. Emma stood up, brushing off her pants, and walked directly toward the security hub. The cubs followed, carrying grocery bags nearly as large as they were. Every weapon in the room tracked them. Emma knocked politely on the hub door. Hi, I'm Emma Martinez. I think there might be some confusion. These are my students from the Learning Center. Zilax opened the door slowly. Ms. Martinez, do you understand what you've been shopping with? Emma glanced at the cubs, who waved cheerfully at the assembled experts. Kra'xith, Tesha, and Veen? Yeah, they're in my Tuesday-Thursday group. Sweetest kids you'd ever meet. Sweetest? Lirana's voice broke. They're apex predators, genetic killing machines. They're biologically incapable of social learning. Really? Emma laughed, the sound bright and genuine. Have you tried actually talking to them? They're kids, not weapons. Kids, Xylar repeated, his voice hollow. You think they're kids? Well, yeah, Emma shrugged. I mean, They need structure and boundaries like any children. Consistent expectations, positive reinforcement, treating them with respect. It's pretty basic. Ven tugged on Emma's sleeve. Miss Emma, did we do good today? You did excellent, Ven. All three of you remembered your manners, helped other shoppers, and stayed with the group. I'm very proud. The cubs practically vibrated with joy. What's your favorite part about our shopping trips? Emma asked them. When we help you cook dinner, Tesha said, immediately. I like learning about money, Ven added thoughtfully. Kra'xith's tail swished. I like when we all work together to put stuff away. It makes me feel like I'm part of a team. Lirana's scanner slipped from her hands again. They're discussing cooperative behavior, expressing emotional satisfaction from collaborative tasks. This violates everything we know about Vexian neural development. Or, Emma said gently, maybe nobody ever tried treating them like people before? She smiled at the stunned experts. Look, I'm just a daycare worker. But in my experience, most behavior problems come from kids not feeling heard or respected. Give them clear boundaries. Show them you trust them. Let them know they matter. It works wonders. Zilar stared at the three cubs, who were now carefully organizing the grocery bags by weight distribution so they'd be easier to carry. She's using sticker charts, he whispered, against apex predators, and it's working. The council emergency session convened right there in Market 7, representatives materializing via holoprojection as word spread across the station network. Emma found herself surrounded by some of the galaxy's highest-ranking officials while trying to organize her groceries. Ms. Martinez, Council Prime Jitaro's voice resonated through the space. Would you be willing to demonstrate your methods? Emma blinked. Sure. Guys, can you show everyone how we share snacks? The three cubs immediately sat in a circle. Kra'xith opened a package of dried fruit they'd purchased, carefully counting pieces. There are 12 pieces and 3 of us, so we each get 4, Kra'xith announced, distributing them precisely. Tisha noticed Vien eyeing Kra'xith's pile. Ven, do you want to trade? I know you like the red ones better. Yes, please, thank you, Tisha. Vien exchanged 3 pieces with obvious delight. Ambassador Kaeldra of the Vexian Diplomatic Corps materialized, her holographic form flickering with shock. They just negotiated resource distribution, peacefully. Cubs from the hunter lineage don't negotiate. They fight to the death over food. Well, sure, if nobody teaches them another way, Emma said, sitting down with the cubs. Okay, guys. Remember what we talked about with disagreements? Kra'xith and Ven, can you show them? The 2 cubs perked up. Ven held up a toy. This is mine, but Kra'xith wants to play with it. I can wait for my turn, Kra'xith said, or we can play together and share. We decided to share, Ven concluded proudly. Zilar's voice came out strangled. In 7 centuries of research, we've tried dominance hierarchies, containment fields, chemical suppressants, neural inhibitors, isolation protocols. But did anyone try just talking to them? Emma interrupted gently. Explaining things, setting clear expectations, and following through consistently? They're predators, Lirana protested weakly. Monsters programmed by evolution. They're kids, Emma corrected firmly. Kids who needed someone to believe they could be good. She looked at the cubs with obvious affection. Why do you guys like our shopping trips? Because you trust us, Ven said immediately. Tesha nodded enthusiastically. You said we're good helpers, and you let us prove it. And you're patient when we make mistakes, Kra'xith added quietly. You don't get mad. You just help us learn. Ambassador Kaeldra's form solidified as she increased projection power. Ms. Martinez, do you understand what you've accomplished? Our species has believed for millennia that hunter lineage cubs were irredeemable until maturity. We've institutionalized them, isolated them, waited for their brains to develop before attempting socialization. That sounds awful, Emma said, unconsciously pulling Tisha closer. The cub leaned into her without hesitation. They're not broken. They just needed structure, consistency, and someone who saw their potential. Korvax pulled up more footage. Council members, I've analyzed the behavioral patterns. The cub's hunting instinct hasn't been suppressed, it's been channeled. Watch here. He showed clips of VN meticulously searching for the best prices, tracking down specific items with laser focus. The human didn't try to eliminate their nature. She gave it productive outlets. Finding good deals is like hunting, VN explained helpfully, but nobody gets hurt and everyone wins. And the cooperation? Jotaro asked, clearly struggling to process. The empathy? Emma smiled. I taught them about consequences, how their actions affect others, about responsibility, how being trusted means following through, about empathy, understanding how others feel. Same things I teach every kid in my daycare. Kra'xith stood up, carefully brushing crumbs from their fur. Miss Emma teaches us that being strong means helping, not hurting. That being smart means thinking before acting. That being brave means choosing kindness even when it's hard. The silence stretched across the market. Finally, Ambassador Kaeldra spoke, her voice breaking. You've unlocked social potential we didn't know existed. Potential we never tried to find because we assumed it wasn't there. Emma gathered the empty snack package, and all three cubs immediately helped collect trash without being asked. Maybe that's the lesson. You assumed they were monsters, so you treated them like monsters. I assumed they were kids who could learn and grow. Miss Emma. Ven looked up hopefully. We finished shopping, we helped, and we used good manners. Did we earn ice cream? Emma checked her credit chip, or then smiled. Absolutely. You three were perfect helpers today. The cubs cheered, carefully high-fiving each other with retracted claws. By the time Emma and the cubs reached the ice cream vendor, Council Prime Jotaro had already drafted the Human Child Rearing Observation Protocol. His holographic form flickered as he transmitted documents across the Galactic network. Ms. Martinez, the Galactic Council would like to offer you a position as Chief Consultant for Juvenile Development across all member species. The compensation package. Oh, that's really sweet, but no thanks, Emma said, helping Tisha choose between two flavors. I just work part-time at a daycare. This is kind of my day off, actually. Jotaro's translator struggled with her casual dismissal of what amounted to the highest civilian honor in the galaxy. But you've revolutionized our understanding of predator socialization. 17 species have already submitted requests for human advisors for their difficult youth programs. Emma shrugged, licking her own ice cream cone. I mean, it's not that complicated. Kids need structure, love, and someone who believes in them. That's universal, right? Across the market, a cluster of young aliens from various predator species watched the Vexian cubs with fascination. A Thorian juvenile, typically aggressive and territorial, cautiously approached. Can I see your sticker chart? The Thorian asked quietly. Ven proudly displayed it. I got 5 stars this week. Miss Emma says if we get 5 stars for 4 weeks, we can go to the Science Museum. Your human teacher lets you go places? The Thorian's eyes widened. My handlers say I'm too dangerous. Miss Emma says we're not dangerous when we make good choices, Kra'xith explained. She teaches us how to make good choices. Security Chief Korvax watched the interaction, his hands hovering over alert protocols he no longer knew if he needed. He opened a new file in the security database. Human child care methods may supersede conventional wisdom. Recommend full protocol review. His deputy leaned over. Sir, what do we do if this becomes regular? Adapt, Korvax said simply, watching Emma wipe ice cream off Tisha's snout with a napkin. We adapt. Emma finished her cone and clapped her hands together. Okay, guys, ice cream is done. What do we do now? Return the shopping cart, all three cubs chorused. And why do we return it? Ven answered thoughtfully. Because it helps the workers. They have hard jobs, and we can make their day easier. Exactly right. Emma led them back toward the market entrance, where their shopping cart waited. The cubs took turns pushing it to the cart return, carefully navigating around other shoppers and apologizing when they got in anyone's way. Ambassador Keldra's hologram followed at a distance, recording every moment. Behind her, a dozen xenopsychologists frantically took notes. Did you see that? One whispered. The smallest one apologized to a merchant for accidentally brushing against their display. Unprompted apology from a Vexian cub. And the empathy demonstration with the Thorian juvenile, another added. Cross-species social learning initiated by the cubs themselves. Emma returned the cart and stretched. All right, guys, we're all done. Great job today. Tomorrow we're going to the library, so tonight we'll review library manners. Remember the 3 library rules? Quiet voices, Tasha said. Gentle hands with books, Kra'xith added, and ask before exploring new sections. Ven finished. Perfect. Who's excited? Me! The cubs bounced enthusiastically, tails swishing with joy. As they headed toward the transport station, Emma noticed the security checkpoint they'd passed earlier. She waved cheerfully at Korvax's cameras. Hey, thanks for your patience today. Same time next week? Korvax activated his comm. Ms. Martinez, yes, we'll be ready. Great. The kids want to try the bakery section next time. They're learning about food preparation. The comm went silent for a long moment. Then, we'll inform the bakery. Emma and the cubs disappeared into the transport tunnel, their chatter fading into the distance. The cubs were already debating what kind of bread they might make, discussing recipes and ingredient costs with the enthusiasm typically reserved by their species for planning ambush tactics. In the security hub, Korvax leaned back in his chair and stared at the empty monitors. She transformed 3 apex predators into polite shoppers, he said to no one in particular, with sticker charts and encouragement, and by treating them like people. His deputy nodded slowly. Should we update the threat assessment database, sir? Korvax thought about the cubs, carefully returning their shopping cart because it helps the workers. He thought about Ven's excitement over basic math. He thought about Kra'xith's pride in earning trust. Yes, he said finally. New classification. Humans may be more dangerous to our assumptions than to our safety. On the monitor, Emma's last shopping list lay forgotten on a bench. At the bottom, in careful childish handwriting, someone had added, "Thank you for letting us shop. Kra'xith, Tisha, and Ven." Korvax saved the image to his personal files. The galaxy, he suspected, was about to learn a lot more about human daycare workers.